Yeah, so this is the Pleasant Peninsula podcast with Steve and Dan, and we're going to talk about some more of our adventures in the great outdoors and beyond. So enjoy.
Yeah, so right before we logged on for this episode, I was outside getting the camper ready for the Memorial Day weekend, and I heard the northern cardinal up in a tree across right across the street.
Northern cardinal.
And I stood there, yeah, and I've been trying to track down. I've tracked down a northern cardinal in the area, but not. I've heard them near my house, and I haven't seen them near my house. So I was like really wanted to try to get one into the feeder, which I haven't been able to do. But there was one across the street this evening, so I stood at the end of my driveway for about 15 minutes. Trying to spot it, and I couldn't. But it was loud. It was like right there in a tree close by. But he was hiding.
Yeah, I've been using my Merlin Bird ID pretty much every time I go out for a walk somewhere. Most of the time it's pretty common birds I'm hearing, but once in a while I'll hear something interesting I've never really seen or heard of before. Then
the warblers are
oh
back.
Yeah, I heard
they're
pine warbler a few days ago. Let me pull my app up.
Yeah, I saw a yellow warbler there. I was in Harvey, and there was some bird photographers, some local bird photographers taking pictures. So I stopped and talked with them, and one of the guys told me that there was like thousands of warblers flew over Marquette just the evening before, and he was taking pictures of some different ones, and he said there was a red start in the area and a yellow warbler, which I saw. Okay. And I think that it's similar what you'll find around like the Chocolate Bayou area. At least in the video I saw, it was those birds.
Yeah, 1 week ago,
so
May
cool.
13th, that was when it was still really hot out. Pine warbler. They're
Did you see it?
I didn't see it. Just heard it with the app.
Yeah. Well, and they're so small. I'm at the stage where I have to bring binoculars, and to try to spot those ones because they're so small.
Right.
And they're,
I did. I like to check up on the progress of the robin's nest. So that's.
Is that at your house?
That's
there?
under our back deck. Same place they always.
Four blue eggs in there.
Yeah, last year they hatched because I know I peeked up there. I try not to like get too close, but kind of hover my phone up there to see, and there were baby birds in there last year, and they were gone, by the end of the summer. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to see what happens. But I haven't heard or seen really anything too fascinating lately. Lots and lots of chickadees. The robins. Heard some white-throated sparrows out tonight, which is fun because I never knew. I had heard that bird song, but I never knew what they were until you
right.
talked about it. Oh, sweet Canada.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of fun.
Yeah, the double.
To know what you're hearing. But.
And it's a lot like the chickadee, though. It is that spring call of the chickadee with just the single Canada.
Well, and there today, so I went for a walk. I've been going out for a walk on my lunch break, and I heard a song I had never heard before, and the app was telling me it was just a robin, but it was not one of the ones I had normally heard. And I can't even describe what it was. I'd have to go back and listen to it, but kind of threw me for a loop. But yeah, it's interesting the different birds and the different songs they make for different situations. Yeah, I like the one. It's such a complicated sound graph that I don't think a human can do it, but I love the song robins do when it's raining, or in the case of Sunday snowing, but they
Mm-hmm.
were still out there doing that. So
Yeah, they got some interesting. I usually hear them in the morning for like there are quite a few robins hopping around the house here. So
so before we got into birds, you were talking about getting the camper ready. So how'd
yeah,
that how'd that process go? I know
it's
mine was a little bit more. There were some unpleasant surprises this year for me, but how did yours go?
yeah. That was the first step. One is to clean up the dead mice
Oh,
because
sure.
unfortunately, I usually have a couple traps in there, but I switched over to the bucket.
Okay.
The like the bucket where they kind of fall in and
Yeah.
drown. And yeah, there was a few in there, so that's always fun. But yeah, that's step one, and we'll get that cleaned up and no
Oh,
leaks that I could tell. I've got the roof sealed up pretty
that's
good.
good. That's
I did
always the
last
biggest
season.
worry.
Last season, I
Yeah.
yeah, I've had a couple in the past where I had to like recaulk the roof, but yeah, we're good on that end.
Well,
So
good.
just waiting for the weather to warm up.
Right?
Last weekend was a little
Yeah,
a
that
bummer with
was.
all the
I mean,
drizzle
I'd
and cold.
seen that coming in the forecast, but I did not expect the big fluffy snowflakes coming down. It was so crazy. Sunday evening, and yeah, waking up Monday morning, and all the leaves are starting to pop, so that things are turning
Yeah,
green,
finally.
but they were covered with this snow, and of course it melted super quick, but not something you see often. I feel like usually when we get our last snow of the year that actually like accumulates a little bit, it's kind of right before the leaves start coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was interesting to see. But yeah, this weekend looks nicer. It's still, gonna be a little bit cool, I think, but warm up into the 50s and 60s and more, like typical spring weather. But yeah, so I got our camper back, and it's getting old. It's 21 years old. Um,
Okay.
but yeah,
Yeah.
no leaks, no roof leaks at least. The unpleasant surprise though was, so every fall I put like the RV antifreeze through the water system, and then in the spring I empty it out and run some bleach water through it. We don't usually drink the water out of there, but we'll use it for maybe washing some dishes, or I don't know, washing hands, things like that. And as soon as I turn the water pump on, I realized there's like a mist coming out of the back of the toilet. It wasn't like
Oh
it
no.
wasn't like a really crazy leak, but there was just this mist spraying. And so I was trying to figure out, well, is there a way to shut off, like a shut off valve like there is in your house? You can turn the water off to your toilet. Well, it sounds like it's just, if the water pumps on, the water's on. And so we're gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna have to go, I think, the first trip at least here without water. Just use it as a dry camper, and hopefully get it in here. I got to call Ride North. I think they do some of that type work.
Yep. That was a couple years back. I had yes, one of the somehow some water got trapped in one of the water lines and it broke
Yeah,
and had to do a little plumbing
that
work
must be what
with some
happened.
PEX. So
I do the antifreeze thing, but it must have, something must have got diluted, or
yes.
you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somehow, and it's still yeah. If it gets diluted, it'll still kind of slush up or harden
right?
up,
And it could be,
yeah,
there
you
could
can
be like,
definitely
who
freeze
knows
it.
how old some of the seals are and things like that's, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway,
That's true.
so everything else, everything else is functional. Just yeah, no running water as of now, but it's not the end of the world, I guess. But yeah, no roof leaks, and actually we didn't have any mice this year, which I know a few other years we've had that. We actually have had a bigger issue with mice in our house basement than in our camper. So yeah, but went through,
Yeah, it's
sanitized everything, and
hard to keep them out of there.
yeah, I know, right? Like, yeah, it's they're gonna find a way in somehow, but Yeah.
So it's a Van Riper weekend. Is that something? What activities are you looking forward to out there?
Yeah. You know, probably going to be pretty low key, I think. Um, just looking forward to, we're going with my wife's parents and grandparents, actually. So, we'll trade off who's cooking, different meals and do
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Of course, do a lot of time at the playground with the kids. And if it warms up enough, I'm sure we'll be at the beach. They don't.
There's a nice beach
Yeah,
there.
that's
Yeah,
one of my
we've
favorite
spent
one
time
of my
there.
favorite beaches, I think, for all of our campgrounds and state parks up here. Really nice sandy beach, and yeah, probably hopefully get out and do a little fishing. I don't know if I'm gonna bring my kayak or not, but um, yeah, I haven't gone anywhere to fish for pike or walleye yet since that season opened up. Well, that was just a few days ago, I guess. Hey,
Yeah,
yeah, it was.
was that one where we said it's designated on the
Yeah,
15th, or
yeah,
is it like
yeah.
a Saturday?
Yeah, and
A certain
I
Saturday?
only
Oh.
recently realized that I thought it was the 15th statewide, but just the UP is the 15th, I guess. It's and it's the
Yeah, some
end
downstate
end of
lakes are
April for
the end of the month.
downstate. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, end of April.
But yeah,
Yeah, I have not been out either. No.
it's hasn't exactly been very nice, north wind every day and
Yeah.
cold, but
I've been preparing, which we've been doing since the first podcast. I think has been preparations
Right.
for our summer or our nice enough spring to get out and do things. Which, I've gotten out and done a few things, but not fishing.
Yeah.
So I've prepared I got myself a small fishing pole that I can break. It's one that breaks into two pieces or comes apart. I shouldn't say breaks.
yeah.
But it's a two part, but it's a real short one, like almost a kid's fishing
Mm-hmm.
pole. And my plan is to fit that into a backpack, and then I'll take that on my mountain bike and I have a fat tire
Nice.
bike that I
Go
kind of
anywhere
use
with
like a
that,
dirt
yeah.
bike, and yeah, it's very off road capable. And I'm planning on hitting up some secluded river spots
cool.
with that little fishing pole, and I think that'll be fun.
That'll be, yeah, I love the sound of that. I know, well, so this weekend we'll be camping, and I don't know if I'll get out with the kayak or my wife's dad will probably have his, he has a 16-foot Lund, just aluminum boat. So we may just take that out on Lake Michigami or, maybe one of the 3 lakes nearby. But then the following weekend, planning on going backpacking with my brother. And when you were talking about your little 2-piece fishing rod, that reminded me. I have a like a telescoping rod. So it actually is all one piece, but it collapses down to, I don't know, it's probably only maybe 16 inches long when it's all collapsed, or even a little shorter. So you can tuck it in a
Yeah.
backpack or whatever. And yeah, I've never done that type of a trip. My wife got me like one of those big, like, metal frame backpacking backpacks where you can kind of pack everything in there. And
Okay, real
yeah,
sturdy.
yeah. So we're gonna head out up into the Mulligan Plains, and I'm I think I'm gonna print off. There's a couple sections of the North Country Trail up there, so I think we're gonna maybe explore some of that. I think the thing I want to mostly see is some of the overlooks up there, and then fly
Oh,
my
yeah.
drone.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Last year I went up into one of the rocking chair lakes, the south one, kind of a roundabout way. So I don't know if we're gonna get up in there, but we'll be in that area. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Mulligan Creek runs through there, and then I think Clark Creek is another one. A couple
Yeah.
little creeks up there. So
Don't get too close to the McCormick track though, because if that is that federal, you're not allowed to fly drones over
Right.
federal forest.
yeah,
or
that's
whatever it
that's
is.
federal wilderness. So no drones. So yeah, we won't be going that far west. But yeah, should be fun. Haven't really ever done anything like that. So, and then Yeah, it's basically like I'm kind of freaking out here because we had spraying and snow that kind of lasted a long time, and kind of like you said, like preparing for summer, and then we
Yeah.
had we had like a week of it last week, like in the
Right, hot
80s,
weather, hot 80s.
and
Well, that was because we needed to hatch all the mosquitoes and biting
right,
flies and black flies and gnats. They needed some warm weather so they could hatch. You know.
yep. But yeah, it's gonna be the next few weeks are gonna be kind of crazy because we have family camping trip this weekend, backpacking the following weekend, and then heading up to Canada the following weekend.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's
Wow.
yeah, my next few weeks here are pretty jam packed.
So with the family camping, do you do what kind of campfire cooking do you do? Do you
Yeah,
get into the specialty cooking around the
I would say
campfire?
specialty.
Like the
We
little
usually keep it pretty.
the little like pie cookers, or are you a hot dog on a
Yeah,
stick kind of
yeah.
person?
The pie cookers.
Yeah.
We used to do those more. I know. Well, last fall I did a little trip up to the Harlow Lake cabins with a couple of my buddies, and that we made that like a meal. We did the pizza pudgy pies, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, so that's fun. No, I mean usually do like pork chops, steaks over the fire. I think we're doing pulled pork, but we're gonna use our slow cooker for that. So not
Okay,
smoking it over
yeah.
the fire all day. As
Yeah,
cool as that would
not a
be,
smoked,
but
yeah. But even crock pot cooking at
yeah,
camp, that's
I mean, I think
pretty good.
being outside and having a campfire going and stuff. I think pretty much everything tastes better in that environment. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be good. Yeah, Van Riper is
Our
one of
camp
our
is
one of our favorites for sure. It's super kid friendly and yeah, really scenic and pretty close to town too. So
It's a popular one, yeah. And Lake Michigami you get a little section, a little end of it there at the campground, but that's a big body
yeah,
of
there's
water
lots
there.
of water to
If you,
explore
if
there
you,
for sure.
some neat islands with houses on them,
Right.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
there's some of
rocky
some of the
rocky
some of
shorelines.
the
Yep.
camps out there are mansions. There's some big
Right.
ones. Yeah. Was it
Yeah,
oh, go ahead. Sorry. I was just thinking out
I
loud.
say I fished the last time I fished that I just dragged a crawler around, and I mean I got a variety of small fish. It's
Yeah.
like you'd catch a walleye, a little bass. There's pike. I thought there was. I don't know if there's muskie in there or not. If they had planted that
I
one,
thought there were. I've
but
heard of them. I thought there were also lake trout in there, at least at one point.
oh
Because I
wow,
know, it does get up to 70 feet in the deepest spot, and yeah, I don't know if I was just looking at old stalking records or what, but
it might have been an old
yeah,
thing.
yeah, it's definitely there's a lot to explore with all the islands and bays and really dark water.
Mm-hmm. It's got the tannin.
Yep, yep. Yeah, the it's always kind of fun. It's not. I take the kayak the few times I've done that, just going from Van Riper. You're kind of on that far, eastern end of the lake, but it's not too far of a paddle to get up to the mouth of the Pashiki River.
Right.
And
Yep.
kind of cast around up there, and I've caught a few small pike and stuff, but still fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I dug out my float tube, so it's many years old, and it had a few leaks, which I patched. I had gotten it out like a year or two, and I realized it had some leaks, so I patched a couple leaks. I didn't use it, and now I just saw it there, and I dug it out again because I thought that might be fun to take out, float around, and try that again. The kayak is handy, but float tube's even easier to carry around.
Yeah, so I have one that I bought last fall. I haven't used it yet. So what kind of like wader setup do you do with that?
Well, I had just an old set of neoprenes, which also I found out have leaks in them, and so I think I'm in the market for a new pair of waders. I think I'm gonna go for some lightweight. I don't know what the material is, but almost like nylon. or they're not really insulated at all, but they're just it's like wearing a pair of waterproof pants.
Okay.
Or bibs, and I guess it depends on the price. Otherwise, I'll just go to Walmart and get a pair of neoprenes again with the boots built in. Or and I did that, and then just the little flippers or whatever fit around the boots, and good to go.
Yeah,
I can't remember if I got warm. I think it's nice with the neoprenes if you're sitting in a cool lake, but when it's a warm summer day and you're kicking around and you got a life jacket on, might be a little hot. So.
Yeah, I got to try that. I'm not sure when I'm going to use that this summer, but I definitely need to at some point.
Right.
Right now I have a pair of neoprene waders, and they do have a leak. I forget where this was, but it was like a training or something on like wetlands I went to at one point, and we all had like, they had like a bunch of waders for us to put on, and somebody said there's two kinds of waders: new waders and leaky waders.
Right.
So, yeah, float tube fishing. That's gonna be a new experience for me. But I think when I head up, my plan. So when I did my Sylvania wilderness trip last year, that was kind of my first time doing a trip where you're portaging from lake to lake. I set up a base camp, so I wasn't packing up my tent every day, but I set up, and then like I did like a big trip. I mean, it was a big day trip, I guess, through a bunch of lakes, and kind of found out the hard way putting the canoe up on your shoulders and carrying it is not. I don't know if I just have a really heavy, awkward canoe, but it was pretty much impossible. So my plan for my upcoming trip in Ontario is I'm actually bringing my canoe and a kayak, and so I'll tow the kayak out to my campsite.
Yeah.
And then use the canoe to haul all my gear. But then there's different lakes, smaller lakes you can portage into. And so I'll use the kayak for that. It's so much lighter, and I've thought about even maybe bringing the float tube, because that'd be pretty easy to carry around, but we'll see.
Yeah, the times I've used it, we fished we fished lakes. I fished lakes with it, and I fished Teal Lake one time, and actually it was right around Pioneer Days, and the Mining Journal stopped by and took a picture of me and put me in the paper.
Nice.
And it was like Summer Float. Yeah. It, was the title. And I think at the time he's like, well, take some casts and I'll take some pictures of you. And I got snagged up on a lily pad or something right at that time. And so I had the nice bend in my rod because of my snag. So
yeah.
Then I went downtown to see the friends, and at that time people still got the Mining Journal. So I felt cool, got some publicity.
Right. Yeah.
But I think what I actually caught were some smallmouth bass.
Okay.
That was what was hanging around in there. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't really fished Teal Lake much, open water, a few times, but pretty much I was ice fishing when I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the electric motors only
right.
paddling. So
yeah, I think
when I have done it with a boat, it's like it's a big lake so we always just had like one small trolling motor battery, and you'd burn it up or use it up basically getting halfway around the lake and have to cut the fishing trip short if you're doing any kind of trolling or moving around too much.
Right.
So
well, that's like the lakes in Sylvania. I think the one lake, it's called Crooked Lake. It's one of the bigger ones, and I think you can use, I don't know if it's only electric motors. You can use motors of some kind, because part of it's private land, so part of it doesn't fall within like the wilderness boundary. But every other, and there's a couple of bigger lakes in there, but yeah, no motors.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the lakes within Craig Lake State Park would be the same. We've paddled all the way up and down Craig Lake, and that's It's definitely not, you know, hundreds of acres like Teal Lake is, but it's pretty long. And you get out there on a windy day,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that can be the one. So the one I'm going to be base camping on up in Ontario, it's within Lake Superior Provincial Park, and it's the biggest lake in the park. I've been trying to figure out like how big it is compared to some of our local lakes, and I haven't been able to find a number, but
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get a feel for
it does sound like it gets pretty windy out there sometimes. It's a lake trout lake, and I think there's some brook trout in there too. I think it gets pretty deep,
it.
but yeah, it'll be a fun adventure. And
I got some fresh Lake Superior lake trout fillets,
ooh,
and the weather was so bad. I meant to grill them over the weekend,
yeah,
and the weather was so bad and misty and cold. I didn't even want to go out on the deck and grill. So they're still. I mean, I'm gonna be pushing the limits of how long they're fresh
yeah.
for. But
You haven't
yeah,
froze them yet? You got them in
yeah.
the fridge?
No, they're in the
Okay.
refrigerator. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's been a few days, so I might be. Yeah.
Well, so on Mother's Day weekend, so the Saturday before, so this is coming on 2 weeks ago. I had gone out for the trout opener at the end of April, and then I kind of went 2 weeks where I didn't do anything, and then I went out again. Me and my brother-in-law went out on Saturday. I don't know what day was that, the 9th or 10th, whatever, the day before Mother's Day. And yeah, we went out to a little lake, and brook trout lake, and it was kind of windy that day. It was kind of like it's been now the last few days, with like kind of sunny and but kind of windy, like north wind. And we did pretty well. He caught, I don't know if he measured it. He caught one that was close to 15 inches.
Yeah.
And then
that's
I
good.
ended up, I didn't keep any my opening weekend, but I wanted to keep a few for a fish fry, and so I kept 4, probably 12 to 14 inches. But when I brought them home to cook, everyone else had usually my kids love fish when I do fish fry. They eat them just like chicken nuggets, but everyone had already eaten and done their own thing that day. There was like a birthday party and different things, so some of it's in the freezer still, but yeah, if I want to do it quick, I usually just I either roll it in flour and fry it, just like pan fry it in oil, or this time I did like the tin foil and butter on the grill. That's your seasoning of choice.
Yeah.
And
That was what I was going to
yeah,
do with the lake trout. Yeah, I was just going to kind of wrap it in foil with some butter and some seasoning.
right, yeah, can't
Usually turns out pretty
can't
good.
go
I
wrong.
get Atlantic salmon and do it that way.
Nice.
But that's from the grocery store.
Yeah.
Even. So.
Yeah, boy, that triggers a memory. So there aren't very many places in the UP to fish for Atlantic salmon, but the Sioux,
Way over on
Yep.
the east end by the
the
Sioux,
Sioux,
yeah.
and then I
Yeah.
think around that eastern tip, through like Drummond Island and stuff into Lake Huron. So oh gosh, 2 years ago now, we did a camping trip out to the Sioux. There was actually a professional walleye tournament going on out there, and my wife's dad and some of her family really wanted to kind of go see that and watch like the weigh-in and stuff. And so we actually camped like at the campground where the I think that was like the designated launch site on the St. Mary's River there. And
Okay.
anyway, long story short, my brother-in-law knew somebody, had some connection in the Sioux, and it was kind of getting to end of summer, like almost the season where people are fishing for those Atlantic salmon. And so we actually went out at night on the river and went up to the old, it's like the old powerhouse, but part of it is where they raise the Atlantic salmon.
Yeah, Lake State has a program, a fish hatchery
Yeah,
there.
they just
for
I
Atlantic
guess they just
salmon.
drop
Yeah.
them right in, right below there.
Yeah.
And so anyway, there's these like hooks on the kind of along the old powerhouse, and boats will just go up and like hook onto them and sit there and kind of like drift with the current coming out of the powerhouse.
Right.
And so
Yep.
that's what we
Yep.
did all night long. And no one, I ended up sleeping most of the night on the boat. It was a really warm night. I think it was like in the 70s that night. But we did finally, I think the one guy caught a whitefish. And then a couple
Oh,
boats
cool.
next to us, we watched catch some Atlantics like early in the next morning. So
Uh-huh.
that's my Atlantic salmon story. It was
Yeah.
one of my
I mean,
longest nights
they
ever.
they've got so there's a camera that I don't know if it's active right now, but I think Lake State has a fish cam that's on that you can watch where it's right where the water's leaving there. You can see the fish kind of coming up to the camera. I don't know if they're passing through right there or if they just come up in dead end into where the camera is. But it's right at that powerhouse spot. And I just visited. They've got a new building right next to that. That's like a Great Lakes Research Center.
Yeah, we did. We saw that too.
That
The
yeah, it's
they
really
had the
nice.
sturgeon like with the
Yep.
touch tank.
There's a tank, an open tank with sturgeon
Yeah.
in there. Yeah, and and some other stuff. I think they've got some tanks, some different tanks inside that maybe aren't for the public, but there's
Right.
definitely like a little showroom and area for people to come in and visit. There's some fish mounts in there. I think I saw there's a big king salmon mount. Some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah,
And it's right on the river.
Center for
so-
Freshwater Research and Education.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember they had a lamprey tank, and I think they might have had.
Yep.
Was it? It must have been. Wanted to say brown trout, but it must have been Atlantic salmon, just like little ones in a tank.
Probably their fry,
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
or
yeah. Yeah, I know. I bought a shirt there. that it's one of my favorite T-shirts. It says "Fueled by Water," and it's got the LSSU logo on it and stuff. So
Yeah, they've got a good. I didn't realize that they had a good program for like fish production.
right, yeah, that's kind of a neat setup they have there with that old powerhouse, kind of serving as the hatchery. I know. So something similar. So I think it's the first dam on the Menominee River. I think it's called the Hattie Street Dam. I think that doubles as a sturgeon lift, like a sturgeon elevator,
Oh,
to help move the sturgeon
Okay.
upstream. So they have more access to spawn, and I think also they collect them and maybe do some tissue samples and whatever. But I don't remember what it was on. It might have been a Discovering episode where they were showing that, and yeah, that was kind of neat. Kind of taking an old dam that's there and sort of repurposing it, I guess. And there's another project. So now that I got this train of thought going, so 8 years ago, 2017, I went to a training down in Traverse City on Great Lakes watersheds and fisheries and kind of all of those sort of things, as they related to teaching in a science classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so they took us downtown Traverse City and to where the Boardman River comes out into the bay, and they were showing us this project that basically was going to be like a fish ladder, but it was supposed to keep some of the invasives and non-natives out, but allow forget what it must have been geared toward the salmon. So I guess they were just mostly concerned with like the lamprey and stuff. But it's called the Fish Pass,
those out,
and I just saw something recently, like within the last few months now, that's like actually starting to be built finally. So
Okay, cool. I've been to the Boardman to the fish ladder there.
okay.
But not that fish pass thing. Yeah, I may have just seen some like a story about
Yeah.
it or something.
But yeah, that was I was like, whoa, I forgot. That was a long time ago. But yeah, interesting. Some of the things they're trying, and
Have you been to Fairport for salmon? I think we had a fish fry, and I had some salmon that I think came from that area.
Yeah.
It was tasty. This was last week.
Okay.
But I've never fished. I've never been out there to fish, but I know it's real popular.
I have a couple times, and I don't think we actually caught fish the times I went, but I have a good friend who he competes in a lot of the salmon tournaments and stuff up here, and I think especially later in the summer, that's one of their favorite spots. As the salmon start coming into that north end of,
I think it's end of July-ish.
Yep.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, I know some people, he was saying, even for like the Manistee salmon tournament, some people actually go down, they'll run their boats all the way down the Garden Peninsula and go down there. It's kind of a strange spot because it's absolutely middle of nowhere, and at the launch, there's like all these old, like decrepit fishing, like commercial fishing boats there. And so you go there, usually you're launching before it's light out, and it's kind of eerie.
Yeah, I haven't been there. I'll have to stop and check it out.
It's definitely feels like a different world down there. But yeah, I want to say he was saying, I think their biggest one they ever caught, I think, was down that way, and it was like in the 25 pound range or something. So
nice.
Yeah, they just fished in the I think it's called the Marquette Spring Shootout, which was I think it was actually on Mother's Day this year, but I think they took third place in the salmon category. But
yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of boats out in Lower Harbor area.
Yeah, it's been, I think,
probably up between the carp and the chocolate outlets.
Right. Yeah, managing the big shifts in weather and wind, I think, is
right.
That definitely is interesting. It's been a while since I've gone out, out on Lake Superior with him to fish, but I think there was one year we went out on Memorial Day, or like maybe the Friday before or something, and it was like 75 degrees and sunny, like in Negaunee, Marquette, and we got out on the lake and rolled out into a fog bank, and the temperature just plummeted. It was like 35 degrees out there.
Yeah,
it's so
ice
so
cold
weird.
off the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get those days in the spring where it's like that. It's like Negaunee's got 75 and warm, and Marquette's got fog and
right.
Yeah, 40.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That Superior definitely likes to kind of delay the changing of seasons, but yeah.
Well, hey, we're getting right after Memorial Weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting ready for the Iron Range Roll
That's
Bike
right,
Race.
Yeah.
It's our annual event is coming up. I have to mention it. The 31st.
Okay.
So it's the weekend, the Saturday right after Memorial Weekend.
Okay. Last day of May.
Yeah, we're doing good. Usually we have about 300 racers, and we're up to 270, like 271 registrations right now, and we usually get quite a few like the week of or in the next week or two. So yeah, it should be fun. Really looking forward to it. And I mean, I'm not going to curse it, but we always end up having good weather.
Okay.
So
well, fingers crossed for another. Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. I mean, maybe a sprinkle, a little sprinkle will pass through, but nothing that's going to stop the race.
Right. Yeah,
and lots of kids this year. It's very family
good.
friendly. Lots of kids riding because it's short.
Yeah.
It's 12 miles now. We kind of shortened it up. End up at Barrel and Beam. So.
Yeah, that's a really nice ride, and I think that's cool that it kind of encompasses, kids up through, whatever age you want to ride a bike. But yeah, lots of cool trail, lots of cool history you go through, which I think is part of the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
To follow that Iron Ore Heritage Trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Iron Range Roll.
Yeah. I had considered signing up this year, and what I wanted to do was take one or both of my kids in our pull-behind bike cart and do it. But they're going to be gone with my wife, going out to visit my wife's grandparents in Pennsylvania. and then I'm doing my backpacking thing. So yeah, maybe we'll shoot for next year. Maybe I can get my older daughter to ride it with me here one of these years once she gets a little more practice
Right.
on her bike. So she just learned how to do a 2-wheel without the training wheels last fall. So need a little
Nice. Ready to
more
roll.
practice
Yeah.
in, but yeah.
Yeah, I was bummed I didn't get out this weekend because of the weather, but I did take a few rides before that, and I got up on the North Trail.
Okay.
And there's a trail I took it once. It's really rugged. It's called
Oh,
Wildcat.
I love Wildcat.
That kind of, if you head up towards the Forestville parking lot or whatever they have up there. Up on the right side, you kind of take off on the right there, and you can jump onto Wildcat.
Yeah.
And there might be a couple different starts to how it winds around, but the one I took, kind of you actually climb up a bluff and then start heading down. But it's rocky. I mean, that's a rocky,
I want to qualify
bumpy
my
trail.
previous statement. I love Wildcat in the winter. On the fat tire.
Yeah.
Because the first time I rode it was part of the Polaroll EX that year. It was like, I think the main event it was like 2021, so I don't think they even had like the main one. And it was just like part of the course, and I was like, whoa, this is like really flowy, and like, but then I came back in the summer, I remember, and it was like, whoa, there's some pretty good rocks here.
Yeah, it's rocky and bumpy, and I've had to stop and walk the bike do a little hike a bike, a couple spots.
Yeah,
it was fun though.
The NTN
Something
trails,
different.
typically you don't get a lot of that like you do with Ramba, but definitely that's one of them if you want to find some rocks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I know one time, just because I wanted to explore, I would say I did more hiking than biking, but I went up Mildcat, which I think goes up Pine Knob, is it?
There was on that trail, it splits off. There's a Pine Knob maybe, or Pine something.
Yeah.
And then at the end, because I came from up by Forestville, there's a real steep hill you can shoot down, or I saw a sign for Mildcat, which was more of the switchbacks, but it was still kind of steep.
I think that's part of the I want to say that's part of like the 100-mile Margie course. But definitely.
Yeah. I have not ridden it in the wintertime, but I don't know when I go through the other Groom Trail, the Upper Blue Heron or whatever it's called. It looks like whoever's ridden on that one just kind of did it themselves.
Oh, okay.
It's like maybe someone snowshoed on it. I don't know if the groomer went through. Yeah. Goes through there.
I think they have a snow dog they use.
The dog?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that would be worth it if the snow dog heads through. Yeah. I'll have to try it in the winter. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been up there. I've been on one ride now here this spring. I just went up a few miles up the Heritage Trail. I went and checked out that new boardwalk that got put in.
Yeah, that's neat.
Kind of in that marsh. Really, really cool. But yeah, my brother and I are doing the Ore to Shore this summer, so gotta get some rides, gotta get some miles in, and
the long one.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're doing the hard rock, so I really wanted to get him to. He's done a lot of biking with me in the past, and I've been trying to talk him into doing some kind of event. And originally, I was trying to convince him to try the Margie 50 with me, which I dropped out of last year, like 3/4 of the way through it. I kind of was going through each one. And I was like, well, the Ore to Shore, it's long and there's some pretty hard sections, but you get to ride your bike more than you walk your bike. Where with Margie, it's it's not really a bike ride as much as it is a test of mental fortitude.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Anyway, but
cool. Well, hey, I also saw, switching gears here. So you're publishing your book of short stories.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. Yeah, it's
How's that going?
Yeah, so I published it. It's out. I didn't realize how easy it is to publish a book. You just do it. And
You got to write it,
so
and then you can
yeah,
publish
like
it.
I literally I wrote it in Google Docs and kind of went through and so I used so Kindle, Amazon have like a free book editor you can use. So you basically use whatever editing software you want to write it, and then upload your PDF file. And then they have like a cover design tool, so you can kind of play around with different fonts and different layouts and stuff. And yeah, and then there's like a preview, so you can kind of see what it all looks like. And it's really nice because you can order proof copies in advance before you publish it, and they're really cheap to print, like $3 or $4 a copy.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
So anyway, so I have a couple different versions of it now. A couple of them are like the proof ones, and but yeah, I have the final one, and it's there. But I just ordered. I had initially just ordered 10 copies of it to kind of give to some family, and my grandma really likes it. She read the whole thing. But
yeah.
I just ordered a box of 20, and I'm gonna try. I think I'm gonna start maybe calling around to some local bookstores and seeing if they're interested in taking any on consignment or whatever.
There's a couple new bookstores in Marquette, maybe a new one on 3rd Street. I know I was at Black Rocks.
Yeah, I heard somebody was talking
Start
about
the
that
Cycle
at
was
my
doing-
work, and I forget what it's
They have
called
a
now.
bookmobile. Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to check in the Snowbound, but I went on their website, and I guess they're not taking books on consignment right now. So, but I'll check with some of the other spots. There's the Tourist Trap, like Snyder's,
Yeah.
Michigan Made, Touch of Finland.
I think Michigan Made sells lots of consignment things.
Yeah.
So they might have a spot for you.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of, and
Well, that's cool.
yeah, I mean that's I think the type of book it is, to be. Yeah, I don't expect I'm gonna get a whole bunch of orders on Amazon, but yeah, to get it into some of these local
What
places.
was the title again?
So it's called Northern Becomings.
Okay.
And it basically it's about just shy of 200 pages, but like each piece, they're like essays and short stories, and I don't know if there's really any like true poetry, but each piece is a couple pages long. I think the longest piece is my one of my fishing stories. That's like, I don't know, probably 12 or 13 pages, but yeah, and it kind of goes through the seasons. So the summer section is like 3 times as long as the others, because that's just when I spend the majority of my time outside. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of fishing, but I think my mom or somebody was asking me, she said, "Oh, you wrote a book about fishing?" I said, "Well, it's like 60% fishing." I think I counted up the number of stories, and yeah, like a little more than half were about fishing, and the others gets into some science and yeah, nature stuff, and
That's nice.
yeah, so.
Have you tried? So, are you a typer, or have you tried voice to text?
I haven't personally tried voice to text. I know sometimes we show like students how to use that. No, what I did use though.
I haven't. You tried it either, but yeah, I thought maybe that would be helpful if you're trying to do a lot of something that's really long.
I think
as long as you didn't have to go back and edit it too much.
I think it could be like, especially for like a first draft or for like getting ideas down. What I did use was really helpful was text to speech to like, because you can, like, I was proofreading these things. It was a collection of stuff I'd written over like the last 8 years. So it wasn't like I wrote it all at one time, but your eyes can go crossed from, especially on a screen trying to proofread. So I used some text to speech stuff and like listened back to it and caught some errors and was able to make some corrections that way. But
nice.
Yeah,
it seems like publishing stuff. Yeah, self-publishing or even self doing music and getting that out there. It's a lot easier these days.
Yeah.
They've got some really good services for things like that.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting time because I think it's easier than ever to like what's the phrase I'm looking for, the barrier to entry is probably lower than it's ever been. You can shoot a movie on an iPhone. You can make an album with an iPad. You can
you can make documentaries on your own and have them in the Fresh Coast Film Festival.
But at the same time,
for a reasonable price.
At the same time, I think you more than ever, I think you have to go into it with like no expectations of like actually, trying to make money or trying to get it super well known or. It's so music and everything is so saturated because of that low barrier to entry that you have to just do it because you love it. So
for me it was fun to do a project like that just to complete something,
right?
I guess to complete it, and then it's like, well, okay, now I did this, so it's a learning experience, and then next time it'll be a little bit better,
right?
And then I can talk to other people about it and help somebody else that's working on a project because I've got a little bit of experience with it. I guess it's a hobby, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's definitely, I think of that final season of Joe Pera as he's building his chair, and then kind of when it all comes together when he has that plot of land and stuff. And I think it very much is there's a satisfaction in kind of creating something that didn't exist before and seeing it to completion for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Well, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on. I'll eventually get out in the woods and have some stories to tell about that, but it's probably time to wrap it up.
I think so too.
I got to get some rest before the big weekend is coming up here.
Right.
I got to get rested. But I did. Oh, I heard you picked up some wild turkey.
Oh,
speaking of bourbon.
So been watching some more, bourbon hunting and review stuff, and I realized I've never really tried a pure rye whiskey. I think pretty much every whiskey or bourbon I've had in the past has been either just like Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 or some variation of a bourbon. So the Walleye Run was actually my first rye, but that's a little different. That's kind of its own unique thing.
That's its own
so
thing.
I wanted to try something straight up, and so I picked up some Wild Turkey 101 rye. And it wasn't quite what I was expecting, because when I heard people talk about rye, they talked about like the kind of the pepperiness and the spice, and it almost, there was kind of it reminded me a little bit of like IPAs or black coffee. Like there was a bitterness to it, but like a pleasant bitterness. And when I watched some more reviews, people kept talking about like some like peppermint type notes. So I think that might be what was coming through. But yeah, definitely, not as sweet as some of the bourbons I've had, and it was good. It was fun to try something new and kind of experience some new flavors.
I've had Wild Turkey. I like Wild Turkey, their product line. I've had the 101, which is kind of one of their cheaper ones. That's good for mixing. But another one they have is Rare Breed.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
It's maybe 50s, in the 50s.
Yeah.
For price, but that's a little higher. I think it's like 116 proof. It's a little hotter.
Yeah.
But Rare Breed always that's to me it was real like cinnamon flavored kind of compared to other bourbons. And I really like so Wild Turkey also makes Russell's Reserve.
Oh, okay.
And they've got a Russell Reserve 10-year that's like in the 30s. That's pretty. It's like a 90 proof. So that one actually is for the price, and it's really good. That's one of my favorite bourbons. And on my list of ones to get is the Russell's. I think it's Russell Reserve single barrel,
Okay.
which is that one is a little bit higher proof, and it's somewhere around like $65 or something like that for a bottle of that. But yeah, Wild Turkey's they're an old distillery and they make good stuff.
Yeah, I think the only experience I'd ever had was the American honey, because I think like when I was quite a bit younger, we would take Jack Daniel's Tennessee honey and mix it, and I was looking for a little bit cheaper option, so I landed on that. But yeah, it's definitely it's fun. Like, you can go down, you can get as as far down the rabbit hole as you want, but I have a couple bottles now I'm happy with. I have I have that Walleye Run still, and then that New Holland beer barrel one with the dragon's milk. That one has been a pleasant surprise. I feel like most of the reviews I watch, a lot of the people prefer like a higher proof for a bourbon that you're gonna sip neat versus like an 80 proof. But they tend to get more. Seems like there's more flavor or something that comes out of the higher.
But
that one's only 80 proof, but that one's been good, and I know there's a different version of it that's like aged longer and higher proof and stuff. But yeah,
I've got the Mad Angler, the Ironfish Mad Angler rye. Okay. And I like that. I like that one, and it's
is that the one with the grayling on the label?
Okay. Yep. That's why I got it in the first place. Right. It had the grayling on there, and I was like, "Well, that's cool." And I tried it, and I really liked it. So it's almost gone, unfortunately. But I think they have a new version. What was they were doing samples at Super One a couple weeks ago, so I had to try a few different bottles they had out there.
Oh, speaking of, no, go ahead. Something popped in my head when you said that.
Yeah, no, it was just, he said, "Oh, well," I said, "Oh, I already have 2 Mad Anglers. I've got the bourbon and the rye," and he said, "Oh, but this is there was something different about the latest
version." Was it a bottled
and
bond?
Of the bourbon,
like higher proof?
It might, it might have been the bottled and bond, and one of them also was a wheat.
Oh, yeah.
Mash bill.
Okay.
And so I sampled both of those, and they were tasty.
Okay.
But I didn't. I still have these other 2, so I didn't purchase anything that day. I had already got the maple syrup cask. Was the last one I got from Ironfish after the tasting I did.
Okay. So I'm holding out for Ironfish to put one out with a brook trout on the label. So far, I've seen seen brown trout, I've seen salmon, I've seen grayling, and I think they did a limited release one this spring that had steelhead on it. But I think if they do a Mad Angler that's got a brook trout, I think I'd jump.
You got to get the brook trout, yeah.
Well, I know. So Fred Wara Trout Unlimited did kind of like I don't know, it was a fundraiser, but they did like a limited run of some Mad Angler, and I forget which one it was. It might have just been. I think it was one of their bourbons that is finished in a maple barrel, but it had like a special label on it and everything. Mm-hmm. But no, when you were talking about about Super One, so that's where I picked up the Wild Turkey. But I was at Super One in Negaunee, and they had Maker's Mark, but it was like a store pick for Super One.
Yeah, I saw that they have it at Marquette too. So I think they give them a selection of just out of one single barrel. I think I don't know how the details work, but I think they send them samples, or they just say, "Here's a sample. Do you want this?" And then I think all of those come out of a single barrel that they've selected, and then they put the store's name on them. But I think they're like committed to buying however many 200 and something bottles. I think a barrel of whiskey like makes 220 bottles or something like that. So, but they've got a lot of Super Ones they can sell it at. But yeah, it was like a Maker's Mark, like Hearth release or something, or it was almost $70 for a bottle.
The one it was 85.
Did you see the price? 85. Yeah, I know it was a little up. It was a little over my price point, I think, but those are good. Yeah, those ones. Yeah.
Yeah, it just looked neat.
Nice.
That's they definitely. Oh, I know. So Super One, and then I think Todix Econo. They really maintain a pretty impressive selection, and Meyer too. Meyer does too, and I know they had that store pick for the for one of the Ironfish bottles, but
yeah, you can find Blue Link they get a lot of stuff for being a small store. They've got a lot of selection there too at the Blue
is that
Link
on
3rd
4th Street?
On 3rd.
It's on 3rd. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, well, we better cut it short, and
yeah,
I'll get with you
we
again.
got about an hour here. That's probably good. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good talking with you.